personal evangelism. Because if you got the remind text before you got here tonight, it's about just each of us individually going. Just go. Just do it. Be that light. Be that salt. And there's so many different ways that you alone can make a difference. We've talked about some things last week, had personal soul winning and answering questions. Want you to be thinking, because we failed to mention it the last week, but our next week, part of our series, we're going to be talking about breaking through and overcoming barriers to witness. So if you have some pointed questions, or if there's anything that you want to talk about on that arena, then please let us know. But write your question down or email it, because I don't even think we got to all the questions last week. We just kind of closed it up really quickly because we were running out of time. So if you have questions, and we'll be asking probably by way of email as well, to submit your questions. You can submit one to info@powh.org if you feel like there's something that you would want to talk to Pastor about, a barrier or obstacle or something in reaching someone. Go ahead and be submitting that in. We'll talk about it. We want to try to make everybody more comfortable with evangelism greater than ever before. Overcome that shyness, overcome being tongue-tied. I had told someone I have a witnessing folder on my phone. It's in my notes. I don't ever want to be stuck somewhere and I don't have all the scriptures. I don't want to have a brain freeze and I don't know what to say next. So even someone has already got that and downloaded it to their phone. This is all about networking. So there's so many different tools and things that we can do to reach others. And tonight, Brother Tilak Singh has so generously, and he's going to come and speak to us about the house to house, the small groups that we had started last year. Wait a minute. Yeah, might have been 2019, early part of 2020, but we had really got them kicked off. It seemed to be going really good, and COVID hit, and all of that got shut down along with everything else in this nation. And we want to get that kicked back off for the ones that do feel comfortable to host something. He's going to talk about the group requirements or group leader requirements and some other things to do with that. How important it is to be a part of those and host one if you qualify to be a leader, and just about the impact that it has on people just by hosting a fellowship, just having that fellowship in your home. If you read in the second chapter of Acts in 46 and 47, this might be his verse, but it talks about the church going house to house. So this is in Acts 2, 46 through 47. So right after the church was birthed in the upper room, boy, they got to work, and they got to work fast. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. So you can pick up a lot of personal evangelism tips in the book of Acts. I do want to tell you, for anyone that's coming to the 9 o'clock class on Sunday mornings, we do have a book. I brought them with me in case there's anyone here that wants to purchase a book for $10. We will start that series in the 9 a.m. Sunday morning class the Sunday after Easter. So I do have those books. Anybody here want one? You can see me after the class, but we want to thank Brother Tilak Singh for being available tonight to talk to us about this very important part of evangelism.
Amen. Praise the Lord. So some of she probably could have just said everything that I'm going to say right now, because it's basically all has to do with the book of Acts. How many of you were a part of our small groups last year? We started January and it ended March because of COVID. Okay, so quite a few of you. The second chapter of Acts, same verses Sister Lewis, First Lady, just read, it describes the birth of the greatest association of people ever established on earth, which is the church. The church was established in Acts chapter 2. Bible says, then they that gladly received his word were baptized, and the same day there were added unto them about 3,000 souls, and they continued steadfastly. Everybody say steadfastly. They continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, and in breaking of bread, and in prayers. So today's church, most of the time we just stop with doctrine, with the teaching. But the early church continued, and they continued steadfastly. They weren't hesitant. They weren't fearful. They weren't tentatively continuing. But it was steadfastly, which so much more that the church has to offer. We don't just have the teaching to offer, but we have the fellowship, the breaking of bread, and the prayers to offer. So nearly 2,000 years ago, the apostles turned their world upside down with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And their success has been an inspiration for all of us to follow. Every generation has that to follow. We have the Acts of the Apostles, the book of Acts example to follow. But not a lot of us have been able to duplicate their success. I mean, to have 3,000 souls added to the church. And it's not because God is not adding to the church today. He is still adding to the church. But the book of Acts and the early church, they followed a structure. They followed, and if you really break it down, it seems kind of simple that the structure that the Lord had implemented was able to bring such great results. When you think about it, they didn't have television, they didn't have social media, they didn't have all of this technology that we have, but yet in that day they were able to reach thousands of souls every day. And that's incredible when you really think about it. Man, they had to walk places, and they reached so many souls. And one word that we have great doctrine, we have great teaching. We have a lot of people love this church because we have great teaching. They get fed the word. And we have to not only just have the teaching, but it's all about balance. We have to have the fellowship. We have to have the breaking of bread and the prayers. It's just about being a well-balanced church. And one way that we can be a well-balanced church is through small groups. You may hear small groups called different names. They're called cell groups, life groups, care groups, whatever kind of group. It's probably a small group. And when you think about it, we do have small groups happening at church. This can be considered a small group. Sure. The 9 o'clock bricks and mortar class, that's a small group. When we have men's ministry, that's considered a small group. So it's not anything new. It's just we're kind of trying to get different people and different leaders to help with this small group ministry, because you can reach people in your circle of life and your friends that I may not get into contact with. And so when we all start or do a small group, if we have multiple leaders, you're able to invite people to these small groups to get fellowship. And it may not be Bible study based, but you're living out your life before these people. They're going to see Christian people just living out the word. And that's the best teacher to someone out in the world, is you living out the word. They may not be able to respond with preaching and teaching, but if they can see something different in your life, they're going to respond to that. And people are looking, people notice. We took the youth yesterday to Bounce, a little last minute spring break event that we did. And I had a guy, he just stopped me and just said, "You look very familiar." And I said, "Well, I mean, I live around here now, but I said, I go to church down the street." He said, "Maybe that's where I've seen." He said, "Where is the church?" And he just started asking questions about the church. And he said, "My wife and I," it was actually the one who asked. He said, "Are you with the church?" And I said, yeah, I was a Pentecostal church right down the street, Barker Cypress. But people can tell that there's a difference in your life. People can tell. Actually, I text Bishop and First Lady this. We had a guy come out, I think it was Friday. He wasn't even scheduled to come to our house. You know, the door knockers trying to get you to buy alarm systems. And we have an alarm system, but it stopped working with the previous owners. So he just began to talk, and he came in our house. And before he left, his words were, man, you just have a very good spirit about you. You know, your whole family in your house. He's like, I can just feel something. And then he just said, you must be doing something right. Well, that's God at working in our lives. That's the Spirit of God working in our lives. And if we can when we fellowship with people, and I invited him to say, I said, you can come on in, sit down at the table. And we began to talk. And I got to show him a video of our church, a new video that's on Facebook. And he was impressed with the diversity and just different things. So it opens up a door, the fellowship part. I didn't sit there and try to teach him a Bible study right away. I just, hey man, just take a look at our church. He's from California, but I believe if he was from Houston, he would have come to our church. He was just so impressed about it. And it's just having that fellowship and being able to connect with somebody on a more personal level. When you think about it, a church that's the size of our church, it's hard for you to connect with someone in a church setting. Connections don't happen in a church setting. It's not very personal. You're worried about other people coming in to grab your attention. You can be in a conversation and then someone else is over here needing something else from you, and you lose that personal connection with the person you're trying to talk to. But when you invite them, when you invite someone to be a part of your small group, or you invite someone to fellowship, it's different. You build a connection with them. You build a relationship with them. And it's all about the relationship that you're building. Because I was trying to find it. I think it was a Facebook post. But I saw someone post about a tree. And they said that this tree would not bear any fruit. Like they were ready to cut down this tree. But what they did was they planted another fruit tree right nearby. And within a couple of months, this tree started bearing fruit. Because some trees need other trees to bear fruit. Some trees, you may be that type of person, well, I don't need anybody, I'm a loner. But there are some people that they need other people to survive. They need the fellowship. They need the community. And if we're trying to build a community, a culture in our church, one way to do that is through small groups. So I'm going to talk about some of the qualifications of a small group. What we've done here last year was we've done interest-based small groups. And we felt like if you can just get people who are interested in the same thing together, it's going to be a great, you'd have a better turnout for them to actually show up if it's something that they're interested in. So we did it kind of on interest-based levels. And I saw people signed up, and you would have never thought to put this person in a group with this person, but somehow they got together and they had fellowship. So it's no telling, or different age groups or limits of what small groups can do. And we had a young lady, or a lady that joined our small groups, and she's been coming to this church for years, but she felt like she was never able to connect or fellowship with anyone because of her job schedule and just different things going on in her life. But small groups made that a way for her to feel like she was included. So I'm really for small groups, no matter what you call them, cell groups, care groups, it has the same point. So small groups are a way that to foster close relationships and community. It is really an atmosphere for building friendships. People talk more in small groups. When you get them together, they feel more comfortable. They feel more open to, share different things than in a church setting. Relationships that are formed outside of a church setting will eventually strengthen and endure over time. When you form a relationship that's not just based coming to church every Sunday and that's the only time you see them, if you build that relationship or you form that relationship outside of church, it's going to last longer. It's going to endure. Small groups, another purpose for small groups is it provides a comfortable introduction for people who aren't Christian to come to your small group. We left our small group open, and we've had people that were friends of ours. Hey, my friend is interested in coming to your small group because they want to learn how to cook this and this. Are they welcome to come? Well, yes, anyone is welcome to come to us. This is what it's for. It's to get those who aren't even connected with our church to become connected, and hope. And the end result is hoping that they would eventually come to church. Because if you can get people around enough godly people for them to feel that difference, they're going to want to end up coming to church. And I see more people are coming in. But small groups, it's very important. It's an atmosphere where you can actually pray for somebody at a more personal level. I mean, if the only time we connect with each other is at church, then we're not really living out the true biblical way that the church is supposed to be established. But we're supposed to be part of a community. How can we be unified in the spirit if the only time we come together is just for a service, but there's no relationship, there's no connection after that? So, Christian fellowship is an important part of everyone's walk with Jesus, and we need to surround ourselves with each other in order to experience the magnitude of blessings that God has in store for us, and to work within His kingdom. So this is all a part of small groups. Like I've said, I think everyone in here has been a part of ladies ministry, men's ministry, hyphen, or youth, or something at one part of your life. And you would say that, man, yeah, I benefited from being around people my age worshiping the Lord, or other ladies worshiping the Lord. That's why we have things like ladies' conference and men's conference and youth conferences, because it's geared to certain individuals in different parts of their lives. And it's the same thing with small group. It's trying to connect us together. It's trying to build that relationship together. And it can strengthen someone's life walk with God just by being together, because you may not know what they're going through in church. And small groups isn't so you can get together and talk about what's going wrong in everybody's life. No, it's for us to build each other up. They may come to your small group looking sad and down, but something that you said, or just being around the body of believers in a small group, could help lift them up and strengthen them. So it's important. Yes, this is a part of personal evangelism. It's where we are trying to share the gospel. You may say, well, how is cooking some food sharing the gospel? Well, you don't just cook food, whatever your group is. You have a time where you can actually connect and talk to everyone. And whether it's just going around and asking them how their week has been, or, ask them, is there anybody here that needs prayer for something? It's just going around while the food is cooking, or after it's cooked, while you're enjoying a meal together. Our group was cooking food, so after we cooked the food and we ate together, we had the opportunity to talk. So whatever group you're a part of, and we've had several different groups here. We had groups for parents with kids. There was one with the meeting at the parks, outdoor group. There was the fireside chats. There was the financial help that Sister Murray did. There was a gardening group. There was a fitness group, or ninja warrior group, however you want to call it. We had groups for everything. There was no reason why anyone could not be a part of a group. Whatever you like to do, I think we had a group for that. But the qualifications, so just being a group leader, if anyone wants to be a group leader, there are some qualifications that has to be met. You can think of a group that you want to do, and we'll have probably a form that's going around. I know some people, last time we started it, they wanted to start a group to teach people how to do CPR, first aid training. So there's different groups, and I think we had a number of groups started that appealed to a lot of people in different age groups, and we got them all together, and it was fun, it was fellowship, and then COVID happened, and it kind of just threw everyone for a loop. It threw the whole world for a loop, pretty much. Everybody was like, what do we do now? But qualifications of being a group leader, we're going to talk about that real fast. I have some. So, small group qualifications. Well, first of all, first requirement, you must be a member of the church. Yes.
Imagine that.
You must be a member of POWH. You must have, in the part of our membership requirements to be a member of POWH, is you must wholeheartedly embrace and believe the apostolic doctrine. So that's part of it. You must be born again. You must be committed. That is a big check mark there. You have to, if you're going to start a small group, you've got to be committed to doing everything that it entails. It's not just, hey, we're just coming together. No, you have to do some praying, and you have to do some organizing in order to make this small group happen. You must be willing to open your home or even make arrangements to find a place to host a small group. Yes, we can have different small groups here at the church, but it's more personal and more effective if you open up your personal place, or you find, depending on the type of small group that it is, you find a place that will host your small group. If your small group is, I know there's some small groups that I've seen where it's throughout the week, one day during the week, where moms who don't work but have small children that aren't in school, they go and meet up at different parks, one day each week, and it gives your kids a chance to fellowship with other Christian kids, other believers, and a chance for the moms to get together and do a little devotion or get together and do their small group. So there's different things, but you have to be committed. You must create an atmosphere for Christ-centered fellowship. This is not just a group where you just come together and it's just to talk and gossip. And no, that's not what a small group is about. It's not a group where you come together and you tell everybody your problems and you're the group leader, and before they leave there, they all feel worse than coming in. That is not what the small group is for. It's to build up people. It's to equip people. It's to have Christ-centered fellowship. And it doesn't matter whatever interest or whatever kind of small group it is. You can find a way to make Jesus Christ the center of that small group. You must be willing to be held accountable and give a report of each group meeting. This is very important because we do need attendance of the group meetings. This helps us to monitor how effective these small groups are going. If there is something that happened at the small group that we need to know about, this is where you'd be like, hey, this and this happened, so-and-so came, and we need you to help with this. So being held accountable, that is part of the small group requirements. But really, anyone can be a small group leader. You just got to qualify yourself. Anybody can do, if you really want, like, man, I really want to do this. I really want to evangelize. I want to help spread the gospel. I don't mind finding a place. I'm telling you, there's no limit to what kind of small group you can do. You can have a restaurant meetup small group and go to different restaurants in Houston. There's different things. If you need ideas, and I think we're going to talk about some ideas about that. But you have to organize a group. So the first thing you do is organize what kind of group do I want to have. And you've got to figure out, well, what are my interests? What can I commit to that's going to keep people interested and myself interested too? You got to think of something that you like. If I don't know how to sew and I start a sewing small group, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble because it's not going to go well. But do something that you're interested in and something that you think other people might be interested in, and you can get them together. So you got to make sure that it's something that you're going to commit to and something that you think that, well, yeah, I think other people will like this. I've heard there's other people that are interested in this kind of thing. And small groups are not cliques. It's not something that we're starting just for us to have a little group of people and that's my little 4 and no more is welcome. That's not what it's about. It's to constantly be rotating out each time there's a new startup time for small groups, so we can get pretty much everyone in the church can cycle through a different small group and meet different people, connect with different people. I don't just want to connect with the same 4 and then everybody else thinks that I don't like them or I'm not talking to them. That's not what it's about. It's about building a relationship with everyone. So you have to organize your group. You just think of, and we'll have some ideas out there. I'm trying to think of all the ones that we had last year, but we had a gardening, we had cooking, we had photography, we had vocal lessons, we had the walkie-talkies. That's what we called the walks and the hikes. We had the potluck for marriage. We had fireside chats. We had couples over 50. They were called the Fellowship of the King's Kids. We had ours was Taste of the Caribbean. We taught people how to make food from where we're from. We've had a bunch of different groups. We had the warrior workout group. I mean, there was just a bunch, and I think everyone who was a part of the small group had fun, and they're looking for that type of fellowship again. So you have to organize your group. You have to figure out, and I think we're thinking about starting small groups during the summer months. So that would be right after Bible school is over. And during that time where we take the break, we start it back up, and then Bible school will help. And there might be other things in between that as well. But the best thing that we found was, because you have people's work schedules to be mindful of, we did our small groups on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We try to find the best. I think there was one person that did it on a Thursday night. But you find out what you can commit to and what the people in your group can be a part of, because if no one shows up to your group because you're just having it at 4:30 every morning and nobody wants to wake up that early, then it's not going to go over very well. But you have to, so you got to figure out what best works for you as a small group leader, and then what you think will work for everyone else. For us, Fridays and Saturdays worked very well. Friday night or Saturday evening. And then you have to figure out how long does a small group last. Now, I would say anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, from 7 to 9, but the thing is, if everyone's having a good time, what I've come to learn is not a lot of people leave right away. So it's up to the person to set the time frame, but it gives that person that mind, it leaves something in their mind. Like if you put a time frame, it's only from 7 to 9. It doesn't make them feel pressure to stay until the last person leaves, because then it gets kind of awkward being the first person to leave, because you're like, well, is it time to leave? Do I go? You want everyone to have fun and feel welcome. So setting a time frame really helps and puts the pressure off of the people in your group. It takes the pressure off for them saying, okay, well, yeah, now it's time to go. Instead of, if you don't put a time frame on there, they may feel the liberty to stay till midnight. And you're like, okay, I need some sleep now. So really, you figure out the flow of time together. I mean, you can have an agenda. You can have however you want to run your small group, with whatever idea that you have. But you just have to put some thought into it. When, where, and how often to meet. We met once a month. And I think that's what everyone here was doing, once a month for their small group. And there were some people that try to cycle into more than one small group. We encourage everyone to join one small group and stick to that small group, and then kind of join others as we started back up. If their schedule allows them to join more than one small group and it's on different days, then of course we don't want to turn anyone away. But remember that we want to have space for our church members, and we want to make sure that there's room for visitors and guests of the members of our group. And around, I would say, if you get more than 12 people in a group, that's becoming a large group. That's not a small group anymore. That's more like a party. But so you want to keep it small, and that's to help foster the fellowship, because I don't know if you ever been to a restaurant with more than 10 people. It's hard to get around the table and talk to everyone in a reasonable amount of time. And it's the same thing with a small group. If you have 20 people in your group, you're not going to be able to connect with all 20 of those people in about 2 hours, because Brother Kaiser may take 30 minutes of my attention, whereas Brother Grove may only take 5 minutes. So, you want to have your small group it's a small group for a reason, at a lower amount, so you can be able to connect and have that relationship with everyone in your group. So we have to find ways that we can strengthen one another. Part of the small groups is to strengthen one another. It's just having a conversation with each other that strengthens people. That helps. Like, man, they're there for me. If I need prayer, I can call on that person and they're going to pray for me. This is the purpose of small groups, not just because they see us at church and they see that we're up on the platform and we're praying, but there's no connection there. But people go to prayer, people ask people to pray for them, especially if they have a connection with that person. It's easier, especially if you're going through a tough time. You're going to find somebody that you have more of a connection with and just say, hey, Brother Kirk, I'm really going through a tough time. I need some prayer. And that's how people operate. But it's different to go into someone that I had never even really fellowshipped with or talked to and say, hey, how do I know that person? I may not feel like that person truly cares about me, as far as someone that has invested time into my life. So we have to find ways that we can strengthen one another in our small group, and spending time with each other, encouraging each other, lifting, building each other up, edifying one another. That is ways that we strengthen each other. And that's the way that even visitors, when they come to your small group, they're like, man, I want to come back to that. It was just such a good environment. People are looking for that right now. They're looking for a good environment. They're looking for some place that they can go to where they don't have to worry about what people are looking at, what people are saying. People are cursing and doing all these kind of things. They want to go to a place where they can have fellowship and have it in a good environment and in a godly way. So we have to find ways to strengthen each other, find ways to connect and get along with different people and personality. That's a tough one, because everybody has a different personality. Everyone's a different person. There's nobody that can say, well, yeah, I'm just like that person. No, we're all different. That's how God intended us to be. Otherwise, the world would just be boring. If everyone was just like you, is that the kind of world that you would want to live in? Maybe you might. I don't know, depending on who you are. But we can find, and if you work a secular job, man, that's one of the things that if you're in some type of management position, you would always have to find a way to work. Because there are workers, there are non-workers, and there are people that just show up for a paycheck, and you got to figure out how to get everybody liking each other, or not even liking each other, just doing the job that they're supposed to be done successfully. When I worked at the bank, that was the main, and it was a lot of what the people would say it's the millennials, and I don't know if I'm a millennial, I think I'm the other one, but they would say it's the millennials, that this new generation, they don't want to work, they don't want to do this, but they're people. They have a person. How do you connect them with the church? How do you connect them and say, hey, this is the way that you're supposed to live. This is the way that you're supposed to be a Christian. This is what the Bible says. How are you supposed to do that? Well, small groups is a way to help foster that. They're getting the teaching at the church, and they need the fellowship part. They need to see that, okay, yeah, living a Christian life isn't boring. It's not something dull. It's not something that I should dread and I should wake up and be like, well, there's no fun being a Christian. No, but they need to see that, hey, just because we're saved doesn't mean we can't have fun. Just because we're saved doesn't mean we can't have good, godly fellowship. So that's what small groups help. Fellowship is really the key. Fellowship is the key. I mean, there's people out there that they just love the fellowship. There's people we haven't done it in a while, when we used to do the meet and greet. Just that small little 3 minutes or 5 minutes walking around the church and shaking everyone's hands. People miss that. They would come to our church, man, everyone came and shook my hand and welcomed me. And but now with COVID, it was just so hard. People are like, no, stay away. You don't know who to go shake their hand. We do the fist bump, or you stretch your hand out. And if you're like me, I'll shake everybody's hand, but I sanitize right after. I mean, so it's. I was telling them at lunch, we went to lunch today. When I pray for someone at the altar, I will pray for someone on my right hand. I will pray for someone different on my left hand, and then I'll go sanitize and pray for someone else. But I don't just go and just lay my hands on everybody without cleaning my hands first. And it's just, you have to adapt to the times that we're living in, because I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable that, man, you just prayed for 20 people and I'm like number 21. Yeah, really pray for me, please. Pray for me. But I make sure, and I do that because that's just how I am. And I'm a germy kind of person. I wash my hands like 100 times throughout the hour. And we go through so many paper towels in our house because I just wash my hands after I do everything. I wash my hands. But I think that if that was me, and if someone was coming to pray for me, I would hope that they sanitize their hands before praying for me. But so we have to learn to adapt. This COVID thing, one thing that we learned is we have to adapt. The church has to go on. Revival has to continue. We have got to keep spreading the gospel, and we may have to do things a little bit differently, but we still have to make sure that we have a plan in place to do these things. Yes, COVID really took off almost a whole year of everything, and everything kind of stopped, and now we're slowly trying to bring back everything and regain the time that we've lost. But we're still going to have to adapt. We don't know what the future holds. And it's the same thing with your small group. You not only have to be committed, but you have to be flexible. You have to be, if the majority of your group can't make it at a certain time, then don't just cancel. Look for a time where everyone can reschedule. Don't just try to. Canceling should be really the last resort for that month. But we want to foster that relationship, even if you have to meet online. I know when COVID started, we did, I think it was 2 of our cooking classes online. And we were in our home. One was running the phone and showing everybody. Yes, it's not as personal, but you're still, even in a time where we weren't fellowshipping, we weren't even gathering in the church during that time together, we still was able to have a little bit of fellowship with one another and check on each other and make sure everyone was doing okay. And that's part of being a small group. You're checking on people. You're constantly involving people. There's so many new people that comes to our church every Sunday. And if we can plug all these people into a small group just to be a part of, and let them feel that fellowship and get connected with people that's in the church and build that relationship, man, then we will get a lot of people that will be here every Sunday, because fellowship is the key. Fellowship is the key. Yes, we have God, We have the Spirit that's moving. We had an incredible service today. We have incredible teaching, but we have to have that fellowship too. It has to be balanced. People are looking for a balanced church, and we have to have, I don't know about you, but I want to do everything that I can do to spread the gospel. And if small groups is that way to spread the gospel, that's just a little piece that I have to play a part. I'm not asking you to teach a Bible study. I'm not asking you to do anything that you don't like to do. This should be something that you like to do, you want to do, and you invite other people in the church to do it with you. So whether that's going out to eat, whether that's cooking and showing others how to cook, whether that's potlucking, having a potlucking, and everybody brings something, but it's just finding a time and where you can invite others, have them invite other people that they're connected to. They might have some family staying with them that week. Invite them to come and be a part of your small group. We want to be welcoming, and the ultimate goal is we want to win as many people to Christ as possible. And small groups is the way that we can do that. I've heard, I'm telling you, there's people in the church now. There's people that's sitting in that's been coming to this church for years that they're missing the fellowship part. Like, man, I love the church, but I want the fellowship part. And we have to get people who are willing to open up their homes or finding a place, just organizing something to help us to get these people connected. Everyone in the ministry here, we're only, Pastor and First Lady, there are only 2 people. There's only so much people that they can host. And if everybody who's a part of us or leading a small group will catch the vision that it's not about us, but this is about God. This is about Jesus Christ. This is about getting people connected. This is about growing the church. This is about having a spirit of unity in the church. Man, we would be even more on fire than we are now. I'm telling you, this church is on fire. But we have to have the small groups. We have to have fellowship. And I think there was several people in here that raised their hand because they were a part of a small group. I know some of you were a part of our small group, and we thank you for being a part of that. Let me see, I have one more thing here. Like I said, we're going to try to start up small groups soon. I think when we first started it, everyone, had a great time. I didn't hear anything negative about the small groups that we had started. If you were a part of one, yes, there's not going to be, not everyone in the church will be a part of a small group. I think it's impossible to have 100% of the people in a small group. It will be impossible, and that is not the goal, to have 100% of the church involved in a small group. You're just not going. It doesn't matter what church you go to. You're not going to have 100% participation in anything. Yes, we would like 100% participation, but that's not possible. But if we can get at least the majority of the church in a small group, we will have great success, and we will see what God is going to do. We're going to just follow the same structure that they did. They went from house to house in the book of Acts, and the Lord added to the church daily. We have great teaching here. We have great, every week we have great classes. We have Bible studies on Wednesday. We have Sunday morning classes. We have preaching on Sunday morning. We have Sunday night Bible school. We have youth Bible study. We have doctrine class on Thursdays. We have a lot of doctrine. And if anybody is interested in joining, like, man, I want a Bible study. We should not come to POWH and hear anyone say, well, I can't find a Bible study at that church, because it's impossible. We have so much of teaching going on. If we can plug them into what's going on and we can build small groups around that, that's the way to go. Because I know there are some people that they're wanting teaching, they're wanting Bible studies, and we have so much of that going on here. We want to fellowship with everyone else too. How many of you are interested in maybe hosting a small group or being a part of one, or you're on the fence of maybe starting a small group but you don't really know how and you want more information, or you just need an idea, like, I don't really know what to do, like what type of group to do? Raise your hand. If you want to start a small group. There's a few. If you want to be a part of a small group, I think everybody need to raise their hand. Yeah, everybody wants to be a part of a small group. Well, like I said, there's so much that you can do to be a part or even to lead a small group. There's many, ideas. If you just Google it, and you can see small group ideas, there is a ton of information. I know First Lady talked about starting a book club, a small group. There was people interested in that the last time we started. And as soon as we started small groups and we had it kicked off, there was a number of people like, man, I want to start a small group. I want to do this. What about this idea? So I guarantee you that's going to happen. As soon as we kick off and launch, and we're going to give it a couple weeks, as soon as we launch small groups, we're going to call for leaders first and ideas. And I'm telling you, we're going to have a great turnout. But if just get involved, maybe you're like, well, I don't feel qualified to lead a small group yet. You will eventually. Be a part of a small group. Take notes of how that person runs their small group. And probably the next go around, you might feel more confident in starting your own small group. But the goal is to have small groups going on every year for people to join. And then the more people we get connected to the church, the greater the outcome is going to be. I'm telling you, there's no place that you can go. People will stop and ask you. If you're meeting together and you're doing different things, they're going to ask you what church you go to. They're going to ask you how they can be a part. People, I'm telling you, people are nosy. Like if they see a bunch of you just gathering together, like, hey, what are y'all doing? How can I be a part? How can I join this? And that's the goal. We want to win the lost at all costs. And we've got to make sure that the people that are coming to our small group, man, it's just Christ-centered, and they're inviting their family, they're inviting their friends, and that way we can connect with them and get to know them. I think that might be all that I have here for small groups. But how many of you, there's my Ninja Warrior friend over there. Right. Brother Burke had the largest small group last year. I think he had about 20-something people signed up for his Ninja Warrior workouts. And I wanted to be a part of that too. But I find, just keep thinking about, hey, pray about it first of all. God, what are you calling me to do? This is the way that really anybody can serve by being a part of a small group. If you can't lead one, be a part of one. Help foster that community. Help build that relationship. Help connect people to the church and to God. Everyone can do that part. Everyone. Encourage others to partake in a small group. Encourage others to be a part of that small group. And commit to go into a small group. We have, like I said, we have so many new people at our church. We want to get them connected with some of the ones who've been at the church for years. And really, it's hard to get you connected any other way than having a small group. We got to get you, if you can join the small group and get connected to some of the newer ones, let them know who you are, build that relationship with you, help disciple them, help lead them, help train them. This is all about helping the church grow. And we've got to make disciples. They don't just become disciples. They don't just turn out, they're saved and they're a disciple already. We've got to make disciples. We've got to teach them. We've got to fellowship with them. We've got to show them that, man, this is life and life abundantly. We've got to just be there for them. And the way that, how many of you come to church and you actually sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with someone? How many of you find that, how many of you would rather invite someone to your home or maybe have some coffee going and some donuts and have a conversation with somebody? How many of you how many of you think will find it more personal if someone invited you to their house and had something prepared for you, had a nice meal, wouldn't that make you feel like, man, I feel welcomed. I feel loved. I felt like, man, out of all the people that they could invite to their home, they chose to invite me. I would just feel different about it. I would feel special. And that's what we're trying to do. Of course, people are going to sign up for your small group, but you got to prepare that atmosphere, that welcoming atmosphere where they can feel like, hey, man, I'm at home. I feel loved at this church. I feel something different at this church. I feel like, man, this is where I want to raise my family. This is where I want to, keep on growing in the Lord. And depending on your small group that you have, now there are small groups. We have a church that we have a lot of children in our church. Now you might be thinking, well, if I start a small group, what do I do with all the kids that are coming? So there are things that you can do for that. First, depending who's on your small group. Like for our small group, we had someone that wanted to join our small group that they weren't over 18. They were a teenager, and of course their mom brought them to our small group. If there's a youth or whoever, they were youth age interested in your small group, yes, you want to welcome them. But if there's, for instance, if you have a young marrieds, we're having a young marrieds cookout or potluck this Sunday, yes, we welcome the children to come, but we're going to separate them from the adults, and so we can have a time of fellowship together. Because it is hard to fellowship when you're having to see about your children and get onto them, stop climbing up there, stop doing this and this and this. So it just really depends on the type of group that you have. Hopefully we have some people who are interested in starting a small group that will be catered to small children too. We do want to include them. And one good thing about including your kids to your small group, if you have kids, is because they're actually building a community with the children that are coming. They're actually fellowshipping with the children that are coming. I don't know about you, but if you send your child to public school and when they come home, you realize how much you need the church. You realize how much you need them to fellowship with children that go to church.
That's right.
I mean, and we can't just exclude them because we have to, like I said, we've got to make arrangements. You may have to get someone or have someone in your group and rotate it out where they can watch the kids or be with the kids. If you can get someone who is not a part of a small group who's in the church, like, hey, can you come to my house? There's going to be a few kids here. I just need you to watch them for an hour in the backyard or in this somewhere separate than where you're having your small group, because you want to be able to foster that community, build that relationship. And it is hard when you have a child tugging at you every couple of minutes or every second. So you just got to make arrangements. If you need ideas or suggestions, I have information for that of how to have a small group when there's parents with small children. Because that's something that a lot of people are like, yeah, I can start a small group, and then they're like, well, man, I didn't think about what do I tell them to do with their kids. Like, you want to make them feel welcome, and you don't want to say, hey, can you find a babysitter? And now they're having to pay for a babysitter, and it's more of a burden on them. They're like, well, I guess I'm just not going to come because I can't afford a babysitter. No, you as a small group leader try to, if your group is not kid friendly. We did have kid-friendly groups, and we try to get anyone with kids to sign up for kid-friendly groups. But if you have that, just try to make an arrangement. Or if they cannot find a babysitter, a family member to watch your child, you have to be welcoming, because we don't want to turn anyone away. And you just have to think like, okay, well, I can get so-and-so to come to my house, and you have a child that's a teenager. Okay, yeah, they'll be able to watch them. You put them in another room and give them some popcorn or however you want to do it, but you got to be mindful of that. It's going to be work because you have to organize it. You have to think, what can I do to make everyone feel included, to not leave everyone out? make sure that everyone's taken care of, and it's just organizing. You have to have that organization about you that, okay, this is my small group, this is what I'm going to do. Yes, kids are welcome, and have a plan in place to make sure that everyone feels welcome. Now, we will, I guess when we start back up small groups, we will make sure that there are some kid-friendly groups, and if you're just one of those people like, okay, well, I really just want adults. Well, there are adults at the church that don't have children. That was another small group that I saw another church started. It was married couples without children, because married couples without children are on a different, you could say different level or different, I guess, time of life, different season than married couples with kids. We go through different things. And so you want to get a interest-based group on different things like that, which that can, I guess, help people with different seasons of their life. Now, for me, I wouldn't start a group for people over 50 because I'm not in that stage of life yet, and I wouldn't be able to relate and connect with them. But I can start a group for people under 33, 32, because I'm in that stage of life, and I can connect with someone on that level. And I'm telling you, with the world constantly changing, I'm telling you, we're over the youth, and they come in every week with a new word. I'm telling you, you have to have a dictionary, you have to have Google really on hand just to know what these kids are saying. And like some things that you think meant like certain things back then, they mean different things now. Yeah. Like way back when we were growing up, Brother Anderson and I, you would say something was cool, you would say that's tight. Nobody says that anymore. Like, what's tight, your pants? Like, they wouldn't say that anymore. They say sick. I don't even think they say that's lit anymore. Everything is just sick.
And the 80s was, it's
rad. When someone is kind of, catching an attitude or throwing, you know how some people are, like, oh man, that person acting salty. Salty is not a good thing. Salty is a bad thing. You're like, well, I'm the salt of the earth. Yeah, but it's not a good thing in the world. Salty is not good. So it's just, so it's like, how do you relate with people who are at different seasons in their life? That's why we need small group leaders who are in different seasons of their life. Yes, you might have a small group where it's people that are this age to like this age, and you're trying to bridge that gap. Somehow the Lord has worked it out where these people connect. And it's amazing how you get people in a room just to fellowship, and they will connect somehow, some way. They'll find some kind of common ground. But it is important to have small group leaders that are in different stages of their life, because you can relate to somebody better than I can if I'm not going through that stage, or that's not the season of life that I am in. I can relate to parents with small children, because that's the season of life that I am right now. I cannot relate to parents who have teenagers, because that's not the season of life that I'm. And parents who have teenagers, I'm going to get your contact information, because I'm going to need it soon, because these kids are acting like teenagers before they're even 10. But small groups is just a way for us to foster that community. It is. It really is. We cannot be an island all to ourselves. We've got to be together. We have to have that spirit of unity. And it's just like if you're married or you're in a relationship, you can't not have a relationship with someone without talking to them. You cannot. That's not going to be a healthy relationship if we have a relationship. And I never talk to you. The only time I talk to you is on Sunday and Wednesday. That's not really a relationship. That's more of an acquaintance. Right. And when you're in a when you have a personal relationship with someone, it's easier for me to say, hey, I don't know if you know, but man, that what you said the other day, it really wasn't right. You have that personal relationship where you can actually show them, hey, but this is probably what you should have said. You can actually help disciple somebody and let them know. But if you don't have that close connection with someone, and you go and you try to, like, man, you know what, you just messed up. They're gonna look at you like, well, who are you? All right, mess up police. Like, they're gonna think you're just picking on them. But when you have that relationship with them, just like when you have kids, you can tell your kids something, and they're going to take it from you differently than if a stranger comes and corrects them. Well, our parents will be, first of all, who are you? You're not the parent. But it's different. You have that relationship. I have a relationship with somebody. If someone in the church corrects my kids and I have a relationship with them, I'm going to take it better than some stranger just trying to correct my kid and don't even know the whole story. You have to have that kind of relation. And this is what small groups is about. It's having that relationship. It's not to correct anybody, but it's to have that relationship, to speak into somebody's life and let them know that, hey, I'm there for you, and I really mean it. Yes, you can say I'm there for you, but if they only see you on Sundays and Wednesdays, how do they know that you're truly there for them? But if you're part of a small group and they can, like, man, they pick up that phone and they call you, and you take time, like they're going through a problem, and you take time to listen and to pray with them, like, man, I can really count on that person. I can really trust that person. I really know that person's praying for me. That person is, that person is showing me the love of God right now. That person is extending grace to me. And this is all what small groups is about. It's not to have social activities at the church. It's not to have people so busy that they can't do anything with their family or anything else. No, it's to help build that community, to foster a spirit of unity within the church, and to invite those who don't come to church to be a part of a small group or be a guest at a small group, to help them into the fellowship, to help welcome them, to help get them to know basically other believers and build a relationship with them to where they eventually will want to come to church. I don't know if I answered everything about small groups, but does anybody have any questions about a small group?
Last year, because since we weren't that far into it?
Yes, I think with everything that's going around, and because we don't know, like, there's people that join small groups that because of COVID they haven't come around in a while. So I think we'll be starting fresh, and it's not to get the same people that. You can have some of the same people. If you never really got to fellowship with those people and you want them to join your small group, yes, invite them back. And we do have a lot of people that have been coming to church, even with COVID, that weren't a part of a small group, that we can get them connected to a small group. But there are a number of people that aren't here tonight that expressed interest in starting up a small group when we were going to start it back up. So we're going to have new small groups started. And yes, we'll have a time for people to sign up to which small group they want to be a part of. So it will be a new people, new faces, just a whole new small group experience. Anybody excited about small groups?
Yeah. When are you planning on that, on the calendar?
I think as soon as, the last class for the Bible school, which we can start it before, but we need to, get the number of people interested in starting a small group, and we will start small groups in the summer, and that way it'll give people a lot of flexibility during the summer. Yes, there might be some people traveling, but there's a lot of people who are off during the summer months that might be interested in starting a small group, and it can kind of help bridge the gap when Bible school ends. We start up small groups, and we kind of keep the spirit of unity flowing and the community flowing, and people are getting connected during the summer months. And then we start back up Bible school for the fall semester.
How often are we going to be doing this?
How often small groups? It's really up to the small group leader. I would say no less than once a month to have a meeting. If we start in May and end in August, that's only about 4 months. May, June, July, August, 4 months. So it'd be once a month. You don't have to, you're not limited to once a month, but I would say no less than once a month if you're planning on organizing a small group. And it's because you can't build a relationship with one person in just a one-time setting. Now you can say once every other month. That only gives you 2 months really, and you really can't build a really good relationship with someone even in 2 months for 2 hours a day, and you have about 10 people in your group. You may be more connected with just a few people in your group, but not really connected with everyone in your group. So when you think about it, it's not really that big of a commitment to say, okay, once a month. I think that might be doable for everyone. When you try to have one more than once a month, I think that's when people get into commitment issues and they feel like, well, they constantly have to be somewhere. Well, last year we started in January, towards the end of January, and it was going to go on till May. But however, COVID happened in March. So we really only had January, February, and I think the first 2 weeks in March. I think COVID happened right around spring break, around the 15th. I think that Wednesday is the last, or I don't think we even had church that Wednesday. I think we canceled church that Wednesday, and that's when everything pretty much was canceled altogether. So we really only had, I know we did 2 classes for our group, and our third one we did virtually. So once a month, I think that would be the answer to that. Any other question? Everybody understands what a small group is? How many of you're some of the ones in the back, have you been part of the small groups before? Not here, but anywhere else? But I think small groups is something that everyone can get excited about. Of course, the reason why I kind of did the lesson tonight, I was kind of the overseer of small groups last year, helped kicking it off the ground and getting everything started and getting contacts to all of the group leaders. And it was up to that group leader to contact the people that signed up for their group and let them know, the information about where they're going to meet each month and all of that stuff. So all of that would be basically the same. We have everyone fill out a form, whatever groups that they're interested in, and then we kind of place them that way. So once we're going to make an appeal for small group leaders and their interests, and once we get that established, they will add it to the website to where if you're interested in joining a small group, you can go and click on the group that you want to be a part of, sign up that way, and then that group leader will contact you and let you know the time, the dates, and that they're going to meet, and we'll just take it from there. Anything else? Well, thank you all for being here tonight. Again, this is a very important concept, small groups, and I hope I kind of explained it correctly and everybody kind of understands what we're doing. And I'm going to call up Bishop to close out, or First Lady, and if they have anything to add. But if you really just can grasp the concept of small groups, it's just not something that we're trying to do just to do. It is something that we tried last year, and it went fairly well. I think we've had, it was over 40-something people joined in small groups, and it was people just connecting with other people. And like I said, there was a lady that came to our small group who's been coming to church for years, but she was never able to fellowship, get the fellowship that she felt like, because of her job schedule and different things. And this kind of helped bridge that gap and help us to connect better with everyone. And it kind of gives you an understanding of what other people are going through, because you don't know who's sitting on the pew and they don't feel like, Just because you go and you shake their hand every Sunday, that doesn't mean you're connecting with them. That doesn't mean that you're fellowshipping with them. They want to have a one-on-one conversation with you. They want to have that time to get to know you. I can say that, I go around and try to shake and say hi to as many people as I can, but when you sit down and have that personal conversation with them, it's a different experience. It's a different atmosphere that you're creating, and we're trying to create that atmosphere within the church. Amen. I'm going to call Pastor, First Lady, up.
Well, I think this is going to be a good thing, and one of the reasons why is because you can make that friendship base that you need. That's really like your first level of evangelism in the workforce, the places where you spend the most time, whether you're going to school, whether you're going to work. And I try to think about it like this: before I was just totally immersed in this 24/7, and I worked in the corporate world, and what did I need to do? What would have been the most beneficial thing for me to do at my job? And I think one of the basic fundamentals of personal evangelism, once you've come into the knowledge of the truth and you have received salvation, is be consistent every day in the manner of person that you are, because people will start seeing something in you. If you come into work one day, you're all mad, in a bad mood, don't want to talk to nobody, go slam your stuff down at your desk, and then everybody's like, ew, what happened to you this morning, And then the next day you're like, woo, and you're coming in there, and I'm not saying anyone's doing that, but I'm just saying the point is, be consistent in the pattern of lifestyle that you live. And we have our bad days, but before you get out of your vehicle, going wherever you're going, say, Lord, cover me right now in Jesus' name. I got a cop pulled me over 10 minutes ago, got a ticket, don't like it, mad about it, but God help that not to shine through today at my job. I got to be consistent. There is something that I'm trying to convey, a message that I'm trying to convey to each and every one here, that they can see something in me, and then when they come to me and they see something different in me and we're talking, then I have an opportunity to share the love of God with them and what I'm all about, and it resonates, because they say, you know what, I do see that about them. They're such a kind and caring person. And that's like your first level of evangelism, just to be that consistent type person and be friendly and show the love of God coming from your heart. And secondly, you are going to encounter situations with people that they're going through stuff. Because if you want to think about the statistics about people coming to church, first of all, one of the highest is they got invited by a friend. Okay? We talked about that. I think 79% in one of the major surveys that they did got invited to church because they got an invitation from a friend or someone. And secondly, most of the time when you have a visitor come into the church, a lot of times people are coming in because they're hurting. All right? And you will see that wherever you're going. You're going to see people hurting. And especially now in the perilous times that we live in, you will see people hurting. That's your opportunity to say, you know what? I will pray for you. I care about you. Say something encouraging, something from the Word of God. And I want to pray for you if they will allow you to pray for them right there. Or if you can just say, I'll have our church pray for you. That opens a door so many times. Those are just some couple little basic things that you can do every week. And that will just start letting the light shine on you, and people will see that about you, to say, when they're hurting this, I need to go see so-and-so at their desk, because you know what? They say things that just make me encouraged, and I know they'll pray with me. I just feel better after I talk to them. And you can start cultivating that friendship and then get them into your small group, right? So we have one more week of this series, and we'll probably have a handout next week, because I'm old school and you're saying you're millennial. I'm like, I know it because he doesn't do paper. That's all. Okay, I do paper. You know, I'm still the one wasting all the trees. But anyway, you'll have the handout next week, and we'll have the final wrap up of personal evangelism, talking about the things that we can do every week, every day that draws people towards God and the church. And what else did you have?
Ideas for groups.
Yes, be thinking of ideas for groups. The idea of a ladies' book club is not a new one. You may have had the idea, sister, or someone else. I know, Sister Hernandez. I don't know.
I think it was Sister Dawn.
What, Sister Kaiser? Okay. Well, people like that, we can kind of merge together and just kind of be, co-chair of a group. You know, you might team up with someone and form a group together, and there be a couple of leaders, that can, that way if someone can't do it one time, the other person can. A couple of people have the same idea. You can pair up with someone and say, hey, let's get together. Yes, sir.
I had two groups that I thought about. We did the prayer walk around the exercise that we turned into a prayer walk. That was very successful in my opinion. That would be a neat deal to do. Meet up here at the church and do a prayer walk and have a little fellowship, maybe in the parking lot afterward, sit around and talk a little bit. And that's one. Something that our seniors are 50 plus. I call it the teenage group. That group. What about a breakfast club to meet maybe once a month at a restaurant, or meet at your place for breakfast in the morning and just sit around and do what old people do best.
Or if you've got kids and you go to the place where the kids eat free. Wouldn't they love to see all you walk in the door with all these kids about to eat free? So there is some restaurants like that, and you can kind of just search around and see how many people that want to go and say, hey, we can. And then Denny's or wherever be like, oh, well, praise the Lord. This church group coming in with 10 kids.
First Lady, there's one key aspect to this that we have not touched on tonight, and I felt like I needed to say this before we left here. Part of the famine, in fact, it was a major part of the famine that Jesus talked about that was going to happen in the last days, was that there was going to be a famine of the fellowship, and there was a famine of the hearing of the word, and there was going to be a famine of the connecting together that was going to take place. This fellowship, which 1 John says is part of the process of the blood of Jesus cleansing us, is just as important. It's just as important as us getting to get somebody into the altar to repent of their sins. Before that ever happens, there has got to be a connection. I'm taking Simon the leper. I'm taking Simon the tanner. I'm taking Zacchaeus. And these are all people that the Lord made personal contact with, that he developed that friendship with them before he ever made a move toward bringing them to what we would call bringing somebody to the Lord. There's got to be a connection that's been made. And so I think as far as the church is concerned, what I was saying of the famine is going to be in laborers. That's where the famine, it's a labor problem. And we need to understand, as members of this assembly, our little is a lot if God is in it. The little that we do is a lot if God is in it. True. It could be a word that is kindly, fitly spoken. We had a man here today. That just now moved here from Nashville. First time in our church. Brother Toluxon Brother David Sotelo came up and introduced him to me. And this man was from Ecuador. We got into conversation, and he's from Ecuador. Well, he is an advanced guitarist. And of course, Brother Torres was coming down off the platform at that time, and that struck up a conversation with them. And so I was able to kind of merge them together and connect them at that point. And there is always that fitting that you're talking about, and that relating. I don't know some of the, I'm sorry, I don't know some of these new words. I don't even know what live is. So I'm way out. I'm way out of time and balance, and I'm trying my best to relate to all ages, but I'm not doing a good job of doing that. I understand that. So some of the words that I'm saying, they're kind of looking at me like I'm crazy, but everybody. But if we got everybody in the church involved in that, then somebody is going to fit somewhere. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to fit somewhere, but that's going to take the effort of everybody getting involved and the time of setting back. I cannot help, and I know I'm taking time, but I cannot help but remind us of the prophecy that Brother David Shatwell told. The revival that God promised is going to happen through the words of that prophet. He said it's going to be of such magnitude that we're going to find the church in a position where babies are having to raise babies. That's how quick that it's going to be coming in. And we don't have time. We don't have time to put them through a 4-year Bible course program. We're going to have to get them into a situation where you may not. This is not about teaching a Bible study. This is not about forming a separate church somewhere and all of that. It's all about connecting people through fellowship and through, one of the greatest ways that you can close your meeting out is just ask if there's anybody that has prayer here tonight. And just praying a very sincere prayer. And because people see that you care enough about them, then that's going to open up doors to invite them. Hey, we've got Palm Sunday coming up this next week. We've got Easter coming up the Sunday after that. We've got this event coming up. 4th of July, we've got a big event. Does anybody remember Brother Mark Dross being here with us just a couple of weeks ago? Brother Mark Dross will be with us on July the 4th. He will be with us, and then afterwards we're going to have what we always do have. We're going to have our annual outside barbecue event going on. We're going to have all of the things that we normally have at the 4th of July event. It's going to be a big event. So we got a lot of neat things that are coming up. And Brother Sotelo, what was not said this morning about the fundraiser that he's doing, all of that stuff is going toward media equipment to buy new cameras and buy new stuff that we need. And that's what that fundraiser is for. So there's so many areas that you can get yourself involved in. It's just going to take people getting out of their comfort zones, getting out of the normal routine of coming to church. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's an indictment to me. And I did not pre-plan that. It's just something that the Spirit prompted me to do here several weeks ago. But when I called for all of these new ones that have come to this church since January to walk around and introduce yourself to the saints. Not the saints introduce yourself to the new ones, but the new ones introduce yourself to the saints. I was shocked. I was shocked at the amount of fellowship that happened afterward, because one of the ways that I gauge a spiritual service is not really how many people that are baptized, not how many people got the Holy Ghost. One of the premier gauges that you can use of gaining or gauging a very spiritual service, watch the aftermath after the service has ended of the people that linger around. It's like an atmosphere of safety that they don't want to leave. And when you begin to see people fellowshipping with one another and talking with one another, that is a sign of spiritual growth and maturity that's taking place in the church. So I encourage you, if you can get involved in a small group, if it's nothing more, as Brother Tillotson said, it might take a little effort out of you, and you might have to watch kids for a night, but okay, that's just an hour or two, and we've done worse things than that. And so let's try that, you know. And whatever it is, what little I can do. Somebody said, "Well, I don't feel like I can head a group up." Well, can you be kind to somebody? Can you just speak to somebody? Can you love somebody? Can you offer a service? Can I bake some cookies for your event tonight? Can I do this? Can I do that? There's so many things that you could do, and your little is much. And then Micah 5:2, despise not the day of small things. So those little things make a great big difference when we're talking about the magnitude of what we're talking about in small groups. I do believe that this fellowship, we've got so many Bible things going on here at this church, a lot of training that is going on, and it's not a famine for the word right now. What it is we've got to get this fellowship aspect, and COVID was a sock in the eye to us. But we're going to overcome that, and we are overcoming that, and we're starting to get past it. I don't know if you've noticed, but people are, I'm not saying people are getting lax, but it seems like things are starting to turn the corner a little bit. And we're believing God for that. We believe in God that we're going to get to the place that the mask totally come off, and we actually can look at people in the eyes when we're praying for them in the altar, and look at their face to see the Holy Ghost come on. I'm looking forward to that day, and I'm believing God for it. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Bishop, and thank you, Brother Tillotson, for being here tonight. Thank you for everything you said. It was great, and we thank him for coming in and speaking. But I do have to tell off on Pastor, because when we talk about all these new words, so I don't even want to say this so much. So this is how old we are. Back in the day at school at Bethel, the girls thought that Bishop was good looking. So guess what they called him? A fox. And does anybody do that anymore? So Bishop is a fox, guys. He's a fox. And all of you young ones that has been born since that time are like, what does that mean?
So Jesus called Herod that sly old fox.
See, over time words keep changing and you can't even keep up. But he would get notes on his desk. You're a fox, man. And now everybody's like, and your kids, if you say something like that in a group, your kids are like, oh, you're so out of date. But anyway, that was the thing back then. But we had a good time tonight. Thank you all for coming. Don't forget, next week's going to be different. You don't ever know what's going to happen and what you'll find out, right? So come back next week, and I have the books for sale. Anyone wants the books for the Sunday morning class, we'll have that for sale. If you want that, if you're coming to the 9 a.m. class, $10 for books. And don't forget, email your questions and concerns about evangelism so we can go over that next week as well. When we close out the series next week, 6 o'clock. Go with God.